we do is movies. Donny.
Noelle.
We did it. We finally watched it. What's it called?
Mr. Rogers' Happy Neighborhood Puppet Show.
That's not what it's called at all. It's called Won't You Be My Neighbor.
It's called Trolley Train King Titus.
No, his name's King Friday. You obviously didn't watch the movie at all.
It's called Sweater Time Traffic Light.
Nope. It's definitely not called that at all. You obviously were drunk during the whole film.
I was at the movies that we biked to, so I could not be drunk during any of it.
See that look?
What?
I don't know about that. We did see a documentary out right now. It's called Won't You Be My Neighbor, starring Mr. Rogers, shot by me, Donnie Thomas.
He did a good job.
I didn't actually shoot it. Old Graham did.
Who's Graham?
He was the DP on it. I
no,
worked
but
with him.
who is he? Graham.
Willoughby.
That's a good name.
Willoughby.
What's his nationality with that name?
I don't know. He was a white guy from, I believe, New York. He brought a lot of gear.
Good for him.
I was an AC on it. I
So
pulled
what does
some
that
good
mean
focus.
to everyone?
I was one of the many assistant cameras on it.
What did you do? No one knows what pull focus means.
We shot some B-roll and we were on a Movi Pro.
What's a Movi Pro?
It's a gimbal.
What's a B-roll?
Jesus Christ.
I'm trying to educate America here.
Everyone that's watching this knows what B-roll
There's
is.
fireworks
It's
outside.
Yeah, it's 4th of July happening.
Anyway,
right now.
no one. What is B? Just say it real quick. What's B-roll?
So B-roll is whenever you shoot extra footage to fill in the gaps, especially in a documentary. Like
why is it called B-roll?
it's like because they would do like there's back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
You'd have like canisters
Okay.
of film,
Right.
and it'd be the A roll.
Okay.
You'd have rolls of film that were the print, like the main
Right.
shot stuff, and then they would
Yeah.
put together the movie and realize they need some additional footage, which would be the B roll. It's not as important. A second unit might go out and shoot it. You know, not the main unit and the main director, but they'll go out and they'll. But in this case, it's a documentary, right? So they shot the initial interviews and everything. They put the movie together, and then they realized that they need additional footage. So they came back to Pittsburgh. They hired old me right here, and it was Graham and
Graham Willoughby.
Yep, and then Morgan was the director.
Morgan, a guy.
What?
Is Morgan a girl or a guy?
He's a guy.
I know a Morgan as a female. That's why it's confusing to me.
Yeah, his name's Morgan Neville. He won an Academy Award, and then Karen was the producer on it.
Okay.
And then we did some B-roll of some abandoned trolleys and some church footage that made it into the final cut.
Mm-hmm.
And I pulled some focus, and I did some gimbal moves with the remote, and made some good shots look good.
So pulling focus, if anyone's curious.
I turn a little wireless remote control thing, and it turns the little ring on the lens that makes the focus go in and out, close to far.
So you obviously don't have to keep that in, but it'd be interesting for people to know what you actually do whenever you are a part of. Because every time that
That's mostly what I do.
Every time anyone asks what Donnie does, I never really know what to say. So this is all just.
I'm a drug dealer, and I sell guns on the side.
That's just sounds exactly like who you are as a person.
Nope, I mostly AC, camera operate, sometimes DP, and when I'm lucky, I direct. And mostly it's commercials, but sometimes it's documentaries. And this was a documentary that came into town, and then they called me up and said, "Hey, Donnie, you available?" And I said, "Yeah."
It's really glamorous how they figure things out. It's a lot of emails. A lot of
Karen got a hold of me and said, "We're coming down, Donnie. You better be ready." And then I said, "I will." And then we did it.
Right.
Yep. And it looked good. A couple of my shots made it in. and it made me happy.
It did. But first, before we get into any of this, because this is like actually meat of a documentary, there's not much you can say about a documentary. So I want to save all of this for like inside the video. First, we have to do a new standing tradition. 5 things to say about, I don't know what it's called.
Here's 5 things that we say about Won't You Be My Neighbor. Ready, go.
Joy,
Positive.
light,
Feel good.
hope,
Solid.
faith,
Effortless.
and love.
Unique.
Can I talk first?
Wow, those were some really good 5 words
I want to say something.
that I think sum up this film.
I personally would like to say that I won this round of 5 words because my 5 words were taken directly from the documentary. I don't know who said them. I tried to remember. It was some old guy. Or maybe it was actually Mr. Rogers' wife. It was someone that said it, and I was like, whoa, they just listed off 5 words that perfectly describe Mr. Rogers and his neighborhood and this documentary all in one, so I used them.
Wow, you really just plagiarized your whole list.
I did. What do you have to say about it before we begin?
Well, I believe this is a positive documentary, right?
Yes.
First and foremost, it was an insanely feel-good film. It made me, feel like feeling something that might be missing in this society.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's kind of interesting in the scope of modern day documentaries because every other documentary is a true crime, horrifying murder mystery that's filled with despair and cruelty.
So I guess real quick, let me just interject.
Sure.
We don't really need to do a spoiler-free segment. We can just go straight from what we're saying now, because everyone knows. Like, it's not like some big surprise is gonna happen. It was
Right. There's no spoilers
right.
in this.
So
it's
we can
just a
keep
recommendation
going.
on. I think this movie stands alone. No, you know who Mr. Rogers is, but this is sort of an adventure into his mind, but also his like overarching. It's his philosophy on life,
Yeah.
which turned into the philosophy of his TV show, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, that was shot in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, which is where we are currently, and where I work with a lot of people that worked on a show and everything, and it's kind of a major part of life around here, but it's interesting to see how it affected the world at large. And this documentary kind of, makes you feel the same things. And it's interesting to see nowadays when the world has descended into a type of hell.
I also want to touch on that because there was a specific part in the documentary. So the whole beginning of the documentary, you're built up to one of Mr. Rogers' main traits is his willpower and his resilience, and that he keeps going. He fought was it the Supreme Court?
It was Congress, I believe.
He fought Congress.
Because they're taking away funding for the public broadcasting.
PBS. So Congress was trying to rescind $20 million, somewhere around that number, of funding for public access television. And they had all these people go in, and they just kept reading off little like pre-written testimonies, and they were really dry. And Mr. Rogers went in and spoke from the heart and showed his true Rogers-ness. And that was like his character. He was strong. He had a lot of will. They touched upon that a lot. But then the end of everything good as we know it, 9/11 happened. And
Wow.
you see the first time, it was actually really sad in this documentary because that was the first time that, so throughout the beginning of the documentary, they keep calling Mr. Rogers back, like after he was done with the show and he was trying to do like adult stuff and all this stuff. And he like, kept calling him back to do segments and saying like, America still wants you to talk about like what's going on with the world. And eventually they called him back to talk about 9/11. And he just said, something along the lines of like, I don't really know what good this is going to do. It was just too big for him at the time. And that if he was alive for now to see what was happening, I just feel like all of this would be extraordinarily big, like tenfold too big. And that's sad to say because Mr. Rogers always had an answer for everything, it seems.
Well, I think I think he had a decent. He wanted to focus on children's psychology, right? And that's what he was good at, and that's what they kind of showed in the documentary. He really kind of knew that the building blocks of a person, an adult, starts at childhood, and he kind of knew that if you don't let a kid express themselves and kind of like work out their feelings instead of stifle them and let them just sit and boil, it's going to explode later in adulthood. And he was literally the only person that understood that, that had a major television program in an era where everything was G.I. Joes and Ninja Turtles and action, explosions, and killing. He
Which
slowed
all
it all
of
down
those,
and tried to listen to kids.
they all had their own merit at the time.
Oh yeah, they're a lot of fun. I liked them all.
But Mr. Rogers was specifically different and needed.
Yeah, and that's a medicine that you don't realize that's good until you're an adult, right? Because
Yes.
and when I was a kid, like Mr. Rogers was cool and all, and it was nice, and the puppets were interesting, and it was always on, so it's always it was always something to watch, and I watched everything. Granted, I would have rather watched Ninja Turtles because that's more rad. But as an adult watching this, I'm siding completely on Mr. Rogers' side because when you look at the world, maybe you need more of that and more, positivity and goodness and kindness than a bunch of people hating each other. Maybe that would work out better.
And it's
Go on.
go on, girl.
Gay on, gay.
And it's very unfortunate because I was also raised with Mr. Rogers. However, I was on the tail end of Mr. Rogers. So my memory, okay, all right. My character was formed largely by him, but I don't have a very strong memory. I just remember specifically like the traffic light was awesome. I love the traffic light for some reason when I was a kid. I like the fish tank a lot. I remembered that. But now we don't have anything like that for our children. We used to have like, it was Mr. Rogers, and then I remember it being like sometime later there was like Gullah Gullah Island, and it was like Gullah Gullah Island. They taught you about like how to be friends, and then there was like
That's
Blue's
nice.
Clues, which that was also a big thing because Blue's Clues
Right.
like taught you how to read the mail, and he taught you how to jump into a picture frame, and he
Right.
taught you how to like flirt with the fuchsia. What was that dog called? The fuchsia one? Magenta some garbage. And we don't have anything. I don't think we have anything. We have like
No, because it doesn't work nowadays. And one of the spoilers, if you're gonna spoil a documentary, but spoilers, it does get into
yes.
Fox News.
Yes.
Could have been any news, but it really seemed like Fox News going hard on the fact that Mr. Rogers made it so that children now think they're too special, I guess, and that created like this world of self-importance, and no one wanted to take responsibility for things, I guess. But God forbid that's not the parents' job. It's obviously Mr. Rogers' job, but No, I mean, yeah, that's what the world is now. Everyone wants to kind of hate on each other and cause problems. And I don't know how you could watch Mr. Rogers and think that that dude's doing something wrong.
I have to. So, in that part of the documentary, I had a heavy heart because I was raised, unfortunately, in southwestern Pennsylvania, right? I know, boo, boo earns, right on the cusp of West Virginia.
Kidding.
No, I'm being serious.
It's all great.
No, it's not. I was born right on the cusp of West Virginia. So I have to formally apologize to Mr. Rogers and his entire family because I remember being indoctrinated into that. My parents not hating on them at all because they raised me and they tried their best.
And you're alive still to this day.
I'm still alive. I have 50,
some of your teeth.
I have a percentage of my teeth. It's not on the high end, it's on the low. And I have a liver and kidneys and a heart and lungs. So
there you go.
Anyway, all that put together, I was raised by people who loved Bush and they made signs for Bush in their yard and they loved Trump and they went campaigning for him and blah, blah, blah. And so whenever I was a child, I thought it was great to be special. And then as an adult, I started to really resent being told that I was special when I was a child because I fed into the idea that the media taught me that being called special for not doing anything, for no merit, was like a negative. And that it was telling you that you didn't have to try, you were already special. And it was really empowering to hear Mr. Rogers answer that question on this documentary because he says,
right.
Spoiler alert, he says that it's not about you are inherently...
Well, no. The fact that he tries to get at, it's not that you're special in like...
You're like
participation.
a celebrity.
Yeah, it's not in that way. It is that you are unique in all the work. Like, so there's an old book, and it was later made into a movie, The Little Prince. Right? It's a French novel, which was made into a claymation film that I saw. I never read the novel. I can barely speak, read English, let alone French. But I watched the claymation thing. So one of the main themes in that is that everyone is special in their own way, and they're unique to themselves because every single being is inherently unique, right? So that means that you are special. You can use the same terminology. No matter what, you are inherently special. You can achieve whatever you want, and that is up to you. It doesn't mean that you're going to be LeBron James or Stipe Miocic, the UFC heavyweight champion.
Or Cardi B.
Or Cardi B, the famous rapper and celebrity there. But you are inherently gifted to be special. You are. And that is everyone's gift.
And that... Oh, go ahead.
And that is the only thing that Mr. Rogers is trying to get at, is because sometimes you don't feel special, right? Like sometimes you feel less than, and no one can tell you that you are. And
also,
that's it.
To build on that, that was a big part of it, of course. And also another caveat to that was that you don't have to do any of this to be special.
Right. You
You're
can just be
already
you.
special.
Exactly.
So all of these people who are making it like some big problem to be special snowflakes and you're unique and everyone has to have this thing and they all put their opinions online and they need to be heard and wah, wah. That's not what he was ever trying to do. And it made me so incensed to see that there were people picketing his funeral because that's bullshit garbage.
Anyway.
So you're all special. Everyone's special and unique in their own way. And Mr. Rogers was just trying to make you feel good about yourself and forgive him for trying to make you feel like you were special because he really tried to tell you about 9/11, jumping off buildings.
Well,
and
real quick.
What?
9/11 was an inside job perpetrated by the Saudi Arabian and United States government.
Because jet fuel can't melt steel,
Well, as we all know.
as we all know.
And you know what else can melt steel beams?
Lou.
Pick 'em up! Lou. Lou, you're special in your own way, too. What do you have to say about this?
He's not gonna. He doesn't like you enough.
Okay, Lou, that was great. Anyway, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood.
No, I have more.
5 stars. I thought the focus was great on all those shots. Anyway.
Oh, it's like a tornado of cat hair just erupted onto everything. It's on all of our drinks and our mouths and all
Get
of
on.
our clothing.
There, old Lou.
Ugh.
Get out of there, old Lou.
Crazy.
Look
It's
at him.
I know.
He's mad.
So anyway, can't. What I really enjoyed about
Reset.
no,
Reset.
keep all of that in.
Reset.
What I really enjoyed about this film was
Anyway, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood.
listen, there was a very big part in this film, and it was at the begin. It was a nice transition because at the beginning,
Really?
at the beginning, it showed that he was the cat puppet. What was his name?
Daniel Tiger.
Daniel Tiger.
Yeah, what do you think about that animation?
No, listen. I'm trying to get to. So in the beginning, it showed that he was Daniel Tiger,
He was all the voices.
and I know you garbage trash bag.
Wow. See how
In
I'm treated?
the beginning, he
in
was
this
Daniel Tiger, and
yeah.
everyone who knew Mr. Rogers thought that he was his.
Okay, so real quick.
Oh my god.
In the very beginning of the show,
What?
they talk about the beginning of the show.
What?
What are you trying to get at?
So in the beginning of the documentary, Mr. Rogers, his own personal, because it seems like he had, and not in a crazy way, just like in a very creative way, he had a lot of things going on up here. And his true
He
thing,
used puppets to express his internal emotions.
True. So his true thing was Daniel Tiger. And then there was a transition. And at the end, when he was older and sad and depressed, and when his soul was crushed as adulthood does to human beings, he became King Friday. I don't
Right.
have a memory. It's
There is
just
a saying, right?
literally gone. What?
I forget what it is, but it's about how young people all start out being liberal, but then they when they become older, they become more conservative. There's a more eloquent saying, but I don't know what it is. You can look it up if you want.
I'm not going to look it up. But it was interesting because the whole entire time of this documentary, there was a cute little cat animation that portrayed his child illnesses and his isolation. And he put on a cape and he tried to fly, as he told kids not to do. And then at the end, he put on the King Friday crown, and it was him becoming old and sad. And that was one thing that really hit me about Mr. Rogers, was that whenever he had to retire from his show, and his wife noticed that he was depressed, and he just said that he missed his friends.
It's sad times.
It's so sad.
Anyway, that quote was the quote is, if you're not a liberal at 25, you have no heart. If you're not a conservative at 35, you have no brain. And
That's bullshit.
That's just what they say.
I don't like it. I mean, I get it, but I don't like it.
Anyway, I hope I'm dead by 35.
That's soon.
I'm 45. Anyway, Mr. Rogers taught me that talking to yourself as a puppet is fine.
He didn't teach me that.
That's all I learned from this movie. I made a sock puppet earlier, and I've been feeling better ever since.
What's your sock puppet's name?
Well, it's this little made up character I call Jesus Christ. But he told me, I made bread into bread, or what do you do?
Donnie doesn't know anything that he's he's just trying to blaspheme the Christian religion.
He made bread into fish
He didn't.
or something.
Actually, I think he might have done that. You're right.
Yeah, something like that, right?
Well, he made water into wine, but he
Right.
might have made bread into fish. He actually,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think he might at a feast once. He did
Yeah.
that. Yeah, you're right. You're right. I know you're
I
trying
went
to
to
be condescending.
No, I went to church like a couple times. I heard it. But I would like to make water in the wine. That would make good money. Anyway, Fred Rogers was a registered Republican his whole life. Did you know that?
Well, that was when Republicans were not demon child
Did
prisoners
you
in
know
prisoners.
Abe Lincoln was a Republican?
Yeah, but it switched.
Anyway, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, home of Fred Rogers, started WQED and started PBS.
Abraham Lincoln was a Republican once, right?
Yeah,
You're not
but
just playing some dumb joke on me to make me look like an idiot.
no, but then it of course skewed towards Democrat.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. So
Yes.
go ahead with your.
This is all supposed to be cut out.
Okay, good. Go. Keep going.
Anyway-
WQED.
Anyway, I think I do want to sort of thank Fred Rogers and not retroactively getting me on this, really well-made documentary. And I worked on a couple days, and it was a good little paycheck, but also was a really awesome project. In my life, I shoot a bunch of commercials for giant corporations around town that are heartless and soulless, and it's kind of good to see this and feel really good about your product, because I rarely one get to see my things I work on, but two, when I see them, it's benefiting some giant corporation that doesn't give a shit, for lack of a better word. I'm sorry I cussed, but
Sorry, Mr. Rogers.
yeah, exactly. But I think just his presence here in Pittsburgh kind of started, jump-started the Pittsburgh film and sort of television movement, and made it sort of possible for, a lot of productions to kind of grow out of Pittsburgh. And, it's sort of the only reason why I'm working here, maybe. I don't know. But it definitely helps. So, yeah, thanks, Mr. Rogers.
Also, I'm going to get a little personal here. A little TMI, but I think we're at that level if you've watched this far along.
All you two people.
I have, at the time of viewing this documentary, there was scheduled maintenance going on down here, So it was
You got your kidneys removed?
No, it was that my kitten was going to be.
Old Lou had to get brain surgery?
Do you really want me to spell this out for you? My hormones were going into overdrive because I don't know if you know this, everyone out there,
You're
but there
transitioning into Caitlyn Jenner?
These tubes here. There are these tubes that lead to a uterus, and that there's a wall that's built up the whole time that you're not ovulate. Well, I guess you are. I don't really know much about the female anatomy as a female, and neither do our congressmen, so write to them. But it's getting ready to shred all of that shit that's been built up over the past 28 days. And your body, that's really painful, what's happening, So your body wants to fight all this scary pain, blood, gory shit that's going on in your box. And that happens with endorphins and hormones. So the time that I was viewing this documentary, I was feeling a lot of hormones. So I was just on the verge of tears literally the entire time. And I don't know if that's an ode to Mr. Rogers and his ability to handle children, 'cause I don't like children. I don't want to have children. But at that moment, I was like, sign me up. I'll take 10 of them. Mr. Rogers can come over and he can babysit all of them. I know he's dead, but that's fine. And I was just going to cry the whole time. So I don't know if that's because of my hormones or if that's because he's a really nice guy and he has such a soft demeanor. And if I could have met him once in my entire life, that would have been amazing. Just like talk to him and have him tell me that everything that's going on in here is like okay and that everything's going to be fine and that everything that's going on out there, it's not really going to affect you like as much as you think it will be. I just wish that I could meet Mr. Rogers.
Right. I think maybe you're dealing with some personal mental health issues, but it's okay. Anyway, but I do think that there needs to be a reassuring force on public access television. Maybe I'll take up the mantle as Mr. Donny's neighborhood, and I'll tell you everything's all right. And, you know, guess what? Everyone's special. Maybe if you want to overthrow the government, don't let them take away your Second Amendment rights, and then
stop saying that. But no, we don't want to be tied to that. Nope, I don't agree. I don't support. I don't agree.
Anyway, Mr. Rogers, documentary "Won't You Be My Neighbor."
A+.
Fantastic film. I think that everyone should go see it, and even if you're not PMSing all the time, like this one. You'll cry too. I almost felt an emotion during it. And that's a lot for me because I'm a heartless human being, I guess.
He's kind of just like
Dolores?
No, he's like a plant. He's like a big fern.
People have told me I'm
like a tree.
I'm like Teddy from Westworld.
Nope, he's just like a tree that grows over there, Teddy. And then like when the wind blows through the leaves, you're like, oh, it's so pretty, and then Dolores. It stops, and then it's done.
Bernard.
Anyway,
Won't You Be My Neighbor?
Good film. If you're a Pittsburgher, go see it. If you're a mom who has kids, go see it.
If you've never, ever seen Mr. Rogers, go see it because you need to be reminded of what humanity is.
You do.
Because this world is hell.
If you're a Republican, go see it and see what your granddad Republican stood for, and then maybe you might grow a soul.
Whoa, Jesus Christ.
Very against them.
Guess what? I think we should burn the whole system down and then rebuild it in a new system.
I think we should trade seashells.
I think we should split up the world and it should be gasoline farm on one side.
Oh my God.
Bullet farm on the other side, and old Donny controls the water.
It's the bullet farmer. He's coming from the bullet farm.
I control the water.
All roads point back to Mad Max.
And then I'm going to cut off her arm, and I'm going to be Tom Hardy, and I'm all the ones. And I'm also Mr. Rogers. That's Lou. I'm Donny. Noelle.
We're not done yet.
Guess what?
Nope.
And guess what? You're your own gods.
Okay, we're not done yet. We're not done yet. We're not done yet. Put it down.
You're your own god.
I have maintenance. I have some maintenance.
You're your...
Recently, All We Do Is Movies and the mother company... No, it's not. That's not free. Okay. Recently... All We Do Is Movies, owned by the mother company of Rialto Street Studios, has gotten into legal trouble with Paramount Pictures. And so, because of that, there will be no more trailers playing on any of our videos.
Chocolate fountain.
And then I have one more piece of news for everyone. Stop. You're so obnoxious. It's crazy.
My brain is filled with candy.
One more piece of news that I think that everyone should know.
Tsunami's heading for this town?
No. So
Anyway, Mr. Rogers.
I have a piece of news I've been trying to say. So on our recent review of Blade Runner 2049, which I don't think many people have watched.
It's your fault, you pieces of
That's why all of this is happening. One man named Barry.
Barry.
What's
What's his username?
Barry
Barry Burton?
Barry Breton.
Brutton?
B-R-U. Breton.
Barry, do you know how to spell your own name, bruh? Do you know that?
Anyway, Barry Breton. He liked our image and I don't know if you watched the video.
Barry, is this some passive aggressive?
Stop. Probably.
Shit, Barry.
Okay. So Barry Breton, his review. First, we've crossed a lot of bridges here. First, legal inquiry. First, fan review. Barry Breton's review of Blade Runner 2049 found it too dark, too slow. 2049. Barry, you are wrong, but I appreciate the input.
Barry,
Yeah.
Barry, this is cinematic genius.
Barry, you have bad taste, but I like that you spoke up, and I
Yes.
enjoy the
Thank
exchange.
you for clicking and then entering text into the comment field, but I feel as though you're just trying to start some shit, Barry, because you don't even...
Oh, you have a phone call.
Oh, no.